Yo, what is up everybody, it's Trey here back with another Naruto related video. And today, with this topic, as you can tell with the title, I really want to get into it because similar to a topic I did previously a few months prior, which was Heavy Sasuke versus Sage Mode Naruto, this specific topic in the community is a highly controversial and also debated topic in the community, despite it being, like the topic I did prior, a very easy topic to conclude on and being quite black and white and straightforward if we're being honest. So as a matter of fact, due to how much you guys seem to enjoy that video, I'm going to approach this one the same way I did that one, meaning I'm not going to have a script here today, as you don't really need an S tier script to conclude on who would win this one, and you really don't need the most articulate and elegant premise to prove that. So that's what we're going to do here today. And if you enjoyed, please make sure to hit the like button and that sub button, as it is greatly appreciated and it shows that you guys like this kind of content. But to jump straight into it, let's first start out by addressing and essentially debunking some interesting yet bizarre Tobirama scaling that wanks him to quite a high extent. Now, the first claim I want to address is the claim that Tobirama was able to physically react to Jubito due to him quote-unquote manually placing paper bombs upon Jubito's body when Jubito attempted to blitz him and Hashirama respectively. Now, it seems, whether it's intentional or not, this claim is due to misinterpretation and misunderstanding of what actually happened in this specific scenario. So the first observation I want to make to debunk that claim is that Tobirama, when this blitz took place by Jubito, was on Jubito's left side, yet the paper bombs that were placed upon Jubito were on his right side amongst multiple parts of his body, including his lower thigh area. Additionally, the trajectory Tobirama and Hashirama were sent in when blitzed were nearly equivalent, indicating that they were both unable to physically react in any significant way, and certainly not in a way that would allow Tobirama to physically and manually place multiple paper bombs amongst several areas of Jubito's body, including on his lower right thigh again, which would require Tobirama to lean all the way to Jubito's right side, with again he being on Jubito's left side, with the trajectory he is sent flying in contradicting that possibility, with again it being similar to Hashirama's trajectory, who we know and almost all agree on didn't physically react either. With all that being said, how were these paper bombs placed upon Jubito's body then? Well, essentially, Tobirama had this jutsu set up prior, which he himself indicates when he explains he created this ancillary jutsu to go along with the Edo Tensei jutsu even long before this moment, meaning his body was a capsule for paper bombs which scattered amongst Jubito's body randomly when he was blitzed, as opposed to the bizarre claim that he did it manually. In fact, Tobirama further indicates this setup by stating, "I suspected this wouldn't be enough to kill you," essentially indicating he had this prepared prior to being blitzed by Jubito. Now, for those that claim, well, there is a flying Raijin marking placed upon Jubito's body as well, aside from the paper bombs, with flying Raijin markings requiring physical placing. Simply put, Tobirama perceived Jubito, which is all he needs to activate the jutsu marking placement. The marking was placed upon Jubito's right armpit, which is where Tobirama's hand was when Jubito blitzed into him. Hence, when blitzed, Tobirama was able to perceive and place the marking before being blown in half from the impact, with the only reason for that even happening being Obito's fluctuating power level due to him still attempting to control the Ten Tails, and due to his mental conflictions with Naruto reopening those mental wounds, so to speak. So in layman's terms, when it comes to the flying Raijin marking, him placing it on Jubito's right armpit doesn't contradict my debunk to the paper bomb placement, as you don't actually need to physically move your body to actually place it. You just simply have to have your hand in the location you want to place it, and then have your mind's neurotransmitters fire the command to place the marking, right? So essentially, both these things aren't mutually exclusive, essentially is what I'm saying. Both these things happened. He had this ancillary jutsu, i.e. the paper bombs, already prepared, especially with the random paper bomb placings, and when Jubito blitzed into him, his hand was already around his armpit anyway, so all he had to do was mentally create the command of, oh, place this flying Raijin marking wherever my hand's at, which just happened to be right at Jubito's right armpit, which makes sense logically when you see, again, the trajectory of Tobirama after being blown in half by Jubito. Hence, my claim and my debunk is more probable than the claim that he did it himself manually, as evident by his performance against Jubito, and even inferior shinobi in comparison to Jubito, who he admits inferiority to and or could not defeat via statements and narrative. So that's the first claim I really wanted to address, as I believe that's probably the most bizarre and far-fetched one by far. Now, the other bizarre claim I want to address, with the debunk for that not being as long-winded, being that Tobirama is relative, at least in combat speed, to One-Eyed Rinnegan Madara for quote-unquote successfully physically reacting to an attack by him. Now, similar to the first debunk with the claim I first addressed, this claim is typically used disingenuously or perhaps ignorantly as well, as the only reason Tobirama got out of the way of Madara's attack was flying Raijin, and not with his own actual physical speed. Hence, he was able to perceive Madara's attack, which gave him the adequate time window and time interval to activate the Flying Rising Jutsu, which only requires perception and not any actual physical movement, as only your neurotransmitters need to fire to activate a jutsu that doesn't require any physical movement. And to even further strengthen my debunking premise, Madara reacts to both physical attacks by Tobirama, with those being when Tobirama tried to off-guard him and when he teleported out the range of Madara's attack and attempted to counter Madara with a second attack. Hence, while it is obvious Madara doesn't have instantaneous reaction time, which no one in the Naruto verse has, by the way, he does have more than adequate reaction and physical speed to quite casually dispose of Tobirama as a threat, which he clearly did. Lastly, since I know pro-Tobirama enthusiasts will bring this up, when Madara states Tobirama used to boast the title as the fastest of any shinobi during his era, that is simply because of the Flying Raijin, which again gives you a temporary instant speed during the actual act of teleportation, with again no one in the verse possessing this speed physically without this hacks or some other similar hacks. On top of that, the fact that Hashirama is constantly implied to be Tobirama's superior, even by Tobirama himself, indicates that during their era, Tobirama lacked the sufficient physical speed to defeat Madara in battle, with the narrative literally indicating this, with only Hashirama being the one to defeat him, and Madara himself stating that only Hashirama was ever able to defeat him as well when toying with the 5 Kage during the beginning of the war arc. So with those debunks now out of the way, I want to actually get into the versus matchup and start off with the speed scaling, as the speed scaling is by far the most controversial and debated aspect of this matchup, and the winner of this category will more than likely win the battle anyway. So during the war arc, when the 4 reanimated Hokage first get to the battlefield, Minato gets there far faster than any of the others. In fact, he gets there so much earlier that he is able to have an entire conversation with Naruto and Sakura before the others even get there, with Tobirama admitting himself that Minato is better at teleporting than he is. Now, I know the first refutation to that by pro-Tobirama supporters is that this is an instance of travel speed, and travel speed is different from combat speed. Firstly, logically it follows that if a character in fiction can run fast, they can probably fight fast as well, which is certainly a fair generalization of fictional characters in combat-based universes that don't have any weird hacks abilities. Secondly, this colloquial differentiation cannot be applied here, as teleportation, or body flicker to be more exact, is used in battle as well, as evident by shinobi literally having special titles because of their teleportation ability, such as Sisri of the Body Flicker, due to him having a tremendously fast body flicker while in the act of battle. Hence, that refutation is null and void, as both travel and combat speed ability are essentially the same in cases like these. Additionally, when the Flying Raijin is spoken of, Minato is constantly the man shinobi speak of, as he set the standard for being the fastest and most gifted, despite Tobirama being the very man who invented and founded this jutsu. Hence, these various extrapolations of both the speed scaling via observations and the lore, as I've just described, indicates that Minato is in fact the superior as far as speed is concerned, from a reactionary and physical standpoint, and even from a ability standpoint as well, again being the man that is the standard for when it comes to the Flying Raijin. Now, to quickly go over the other 2 out of the 3 key scaling aspects for versus matchups, which are AP and durability, as they correlate and are directly connected to each other, as stated by Newton's third law of motion. When it comes to Tobirama's durability and AP, unfortunately there isn't much for him empirically. All we know is that he battled Kin and Gin twice, and essentially lost both encounters, with the second one costing him his life. Now, to be fair to Tobirama, in the second one, it was stated and observably shown that he was fatigued, and that in the second instance, he didn't just fight Kin and Gin, but an entire crew named the Kikuku and Ginkuku unit, with, according to the narrative and the data books, consisted of 20 S-ranked shinobi, which are certainly very elite and highly skilled. While in the first encounter, he, even with the aid of the second Reikage, was defeated by Kin and Gin. Hence, his abilities, we could say safely, are only adequate enough to fight off someone of the level of Kin and Gin, with the best display and showings for them being in the war, where, when in V2, displayed some decent AP, durability, and overall threat to other shinobi. However, they're certainly not high Kage level, as the individuals that defeated them in the war were not high Kage level either, which included shinobi such as Tenten, Choji, etc. Now, when it comes to Minato, his AP and durability is actually quite high, and we can observe that specifically in the Minato one-shot, which came out last year, where he is shown not only surviving impaling by a V2 Nine-Tail Control Kushina, but also stalemating a restrained full Nine-Tails Bijou Bomb via his own Rasengan, when he just happened to master it, on top of the fact that he was fatigued, as evident by the prior injury he took via V2 Kushina, and the fact that he was in the astral plane, whereas we know if you're not in your own astral plane, you are actually weaker, as evident by the interaction we see with Naruto and Killer Bee when they are attempting to tame the Nine-Tails in Naruto's astral plane. Hence, Minato's durability in AP is actually quite high and extreme, and thankfully we have this empirical evidence to display that, as in the original manga, where we don't really get to see a display of that, aside from Minato using a Rasengan against Obito during the Nine-Tails attack, as he is known as more so of a slick and finesse type of shinobi, where he doesn't really even need to use AP, but rather slick and strategic motions. Hence, we could also say very safely that Minato is superior when it comes to AP and durability as well, as again, Tobirama never displayed this level of AP and durability, at least physically, with the best display for him being the paper bomb jutsu he used against Jubito, which honestly, if I'm being honest, still doesn't compare to what Minato accomplished in the one-shot as a teenager, meaning his AP and durability is even higher in his prime, which is the version we were discussing in this matchup anyway. So with all that being said, it is quite clear that this matchup is significantly one-sided, as Minato has the superiority in all key aspects of scaling, the better lore, and even admitted superiority by Tobirama himself. He's faster, he's more proficient in the very jutsu that Tobirama is known for, and he even has better AP and durability, as I have just proven as well. Now, when it comes to Tobirama, I actually like the character for many reasons, including his conviction, and overall just style and demeanor. However, again, there is a cult-like following when it comes to Tobirama, and when it comes to his scaling, and just in general, when it comes to these characters that have these cult-like followings, it's truly emotional bias that clouds the judgment of them, causing them to give them this unreasonably high scaling, when in reality, when you use more logic and attempt to stay more objective, the scaling is much lower than that. And again, Tobirama isn't weak by any means, but if we're being honest, he is at best a Sannin Plus level, and perhaps would give someone like Seijmo Jiraiya a good fight, and maybe even defeat him, or maybe defeat someone on the level of Kisame. But when it comes to these high Kage level individuals, such as Minato and beyond, he just doesn't compete. He even admits it himself, right? His very feats display that, Kin and Gin again. Hence, Minato would defeat Tobirama quite decisively, and I would even say quite easily. So yeah, I really wanted to discuss that matchup. I've been seeing it circulating around the community, especially as of late, and I just want to give my input on that. Feel free to leave your thoughts down below, whether you agree, disagree, have a refutation, or just any thought in general. I do enjoy reading your thoughts and just general opinions on things like this. But with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video. Stay classy.